Hey, hey, hey. It's the end of the week, and Dr. Charlie Cartwright and I are sitting here just talking about how it's a great time to do a cleansing. So let's take a breath while I welcome you here. Good morning, Charlie Cartwright. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm great. So this is your host, Dr. Deb Carlin, and my co-host, Dr. Charlie Cartwright. And this is Blog Talk Radio, the K Factor, where K equals kindness, and the factors are all the things that lead to it. And we're here on Freedom Fridays, and I have to tell you, we've been robbing time from you as our audience today because Charlie and I had a good conversation before we even allowed the cameras to start to roll. It was just terrific. And there's something really lovely about that because with each episode, each person that I do these things with, there's such a wonderful connection, and each relationship is completely different. But the theme is we like to come together and visit. And we have this alignment of perspective, and we want to bring you, our listening and viewing audience, good content that, guess what, in today's world, especially, gives you something that lifts you, that makes you feel like, oh, hallelujah, there's some sanity out there. How about that, Charlie? I just branded us as sanity. Uh-oh.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we can all use a heavy dose of that for
Yeah.
sure.
And
So
reasonability, and then the kindness. Every time I turn on the television and I try to watch the news and see what's up and what's going on, I see anything but kindness.
yeah, yeah, it's true. It's just flooded with all sorts of negative stories, negativity, what might happen. You know, there's a meteor might hit the Earth, and it just there's just always, and this volcano might erupt, and this storm might turn to, and this here's what might happen, and I it's amazing. So you can really get caught into that and thrown off track if you're not mindful.
Yeah.
And you have to watch every day.
Yeah, you really do. And I just was hearing something out my windows, and I look out, and the rain is coming down very heavily. I actually had gone to sleep with the window off the bedroom open, and I heard this nice breeze and felt the cool air, and I awakened to that. And then before when I was getting ready to do the show with you, I was thinking it's getting cold out there.
Really, yeah, it is. It turned. I think here was 82, maybe yesterday, and this morning I think it's 37. So
Oh,
we had one last
hurrah!
blast of and I'm sure we'll next week's supposed to be cold, but I'm sure we'll still get a week in the 60s here and there between now and the first of the year. It always happens that way.
It
So
always happens that way, and I love that. Well, I'm telling you what, the rain is pummeling against my windows, and there's a lot of windows here, and I'm glad I'm in a sweater. I'm glad the lights are kind of nice and dim and comfortable. I got my cuppa for the morning, to drink some nice hot coffee while we're talking. And in terms of the theme of our show and Freedom Fridays, and in starting this and doing this episode so that we're kind of cleansing through the week and catching our breath. Isn't it beautiful that we've got the freedom to do what it is that you and I have carved out for our lives?
yeah, 100%. It's good. It's not censored, and we were able to reach so many people that need a solid message on a daily basis, which is really cool to wake up to messages from people on the other side of the world saying thank you for posting this video. Pretty
Yeah,
awesome,
right.
actually.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
It
And one of
really is.
one of the things that I really am feeling grateful about in terms of the theme of our show and freedom today is not everybody is waking up in the morning with something to look forward to. Not everybody is waking up and having a somewhat relaxed pace. Some people get up in the morning and they're so frenetic with what it is that they think that they need to do and got to do. And, granted that there's schedules, but there's a way to arrange our time so a schedule doesn't put us on the edge of our chair and throw us off and make us unhappy. Now, I
Mhm.
don't like to use the terms that everybody else uses, like time management. I'd rather talk about the allocation of time in a reasonable way.
Mhm.
But if I know that I've got an 8 o'clock show to do, I'm going to get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock so I can get my head on straight, so I can brush my teeth, so I can make my coffee or my tea and have some nourishment and do some yoga stretches and my morning prayers and meditations so that by the time I arrive, I don't look like a person who just flew in the door like, okay, hurry up, here we go. Because then that's a whole different energy, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You got to have, you got to have that, time to gather your thoughts and really, have your best foot forward. And it takes time to be at your best. That's for sure. So,
Absolutely. And I love your background today because you're talking about work and life and you've got it perfectly balanced.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. That's a trick.
that
That's
is
a
a trick,
trick.
man.
Yeah, it's
It
a
is a
trick.
real trick. And
But
go ahead.
no, what were you gonna say?
Well, it's interesting because the way that it's balanced on your shoulders, it's exactly on your shoulders. The height of it is perfect.
Almost like I planned it, right?
Well, almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yes, absolutely. And I never noticed before how your shoulders really go straight across and mine really go down. I think that that's, a masculine feminine thing, but I just had a beautiful message for myself in the midst of it that I'd like to thank you for.
Oh,
I'm looking at myself thinking the message for me as a female is take all that stress and let it just roll off your shoulders.
yeah, yeah. You do. You have to have that people talk about resiliency a lot,
Oh yeah.
right? And that's kind of been a hot topic even before the pandemic. That was really in grit and all these
Yep.
different terms. But a big part of that is not letting things in that are negative, right? Letting them roll right off and not letting them impact your attitude, your mood, your your self, how you feel about yourself, how you view yourself and your self-worth, letting those things fall off because it's interesting to me, and I never looked at it for many many years, but now, looking back, there was so much. I had a very low self-esteem, from childhood on up, and but it's because I didn't have the skill set to understand what was happening on the outside, and then you get assistance with that, right, from not so much well-meaning people. You get assistance with having lower self-esteem. And so now that I understand that, I look back and say, wow, I came into contact with a lot of high level dysfunction, and I think we all do. And so now I can recognize it for what it is, because again, there's no happy person trying to run you down. There's no happy person making negative comments about you behind your back. There's no happy person being overtly rude to you. Those aren't happy people that do those things,
Oh,
right?
bless your heart for those.
You know what I'm saying? And so now when you see that, you have to know that you're getting the overflow of what's inside that person's heart, and it's not good. So they're actually in a ton of pain. They're actually in a very dark space, even though they're representing something else to the outside of the world. The
Mhm.
way they're treating you really reveals what's inside of them. And when they close their eyes at night, it's not good, right? So when I recognize that now, I look at this person and I really see them for what they are, and it's a lot easier to not take it personally. Because again, if I wasn't standing there, it'd be someone else that they'd be overflowing this negativity towards. It's not you, it's them. So,
So what do you do in those situations, Charlie?
I walk away. Mostly, I walk away, and that's what I mostly do. I'm not going to give an audience to it, and so I walk away. I remember I learned this lesson when my oldest daughter, and she was, in the terrible twos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember the first time she hit the floor and threw a tantrum, you know what I mean? And I wasn't quite sure what to do. And so for whatever reason, it flashed in my head. I left the room. And so she's kicking and screaming, and she looks up, but I'm not standing there anymore. Well, you know what happened to the tantrum? It
It's
stopped. So there was no audience. And so she's like, okay, this isn't working. She never did it again, which is funny to me looking back now. She never did because she's like, this is not working.
right.
And so very smart kid, even at that age. She's
Right.
like, I'll do other things, here. So she was very, very bright. But I just remember when there was no audience, she wasn't screaming and kicking on the floor in the other room. It stopped when she realized I was not paying attention. So that's one big thing. And then other times I'll tell people, especially if they're elevated and being rude, I'm trying to help them with something, say, and this on a business side, I've had this customer service call,
Mm-hmm.
and someone's, angry and they're swearing. And I'm like, hey, yes, ma'am, I'm trying to help you here and I'd love to help you. But here, I need you to understand something. If the profanity continues, this call is going to end abruptly, just like that. And sure enough, bloop. I mean, I never had any of my people, I never expected them to take that. And I always told them, no one's going to mistreat you.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to deliver the highest level of service, but when it crosses the line, that's not our client. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's not
Right.
our client.
Absolutely.
And so that's the best way, is just to, sometimes tell people, hey, that's not something I'm willing to do. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to raise my voice. And if this continues, then the conversation's over. But if you want to talk civilly, or even if I get a phone call that way, sometimes I say, you know what? Why don't you call me back when you're in a better space, in a better mood? Then we can have a conversation, because I'm not gonna stay on the phone for this.
That's
And
powerful.
people are like, oh, okay, because you've taken control of that situation. And so sometimes it's hard, because you want to say something back sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But now, once you do that, then now you're just as wrong as they are. So I don't want to do that. And, life's just so much better. And if that's someone that I have a repeated incidents with, because I understand people can have a bad day for whatever reason, but if I have repeated incidents with an individual, then it's time to assess that relationship. Maybe that's someone that's better served not in my inner circle anyway. Not in my life, because I just don't need that in my life. Who does? I mean, who needs that?
None of us do. And I'll tell you what, I have found myself across the course of my life, I've practiced this, but I'm doing it more now than ever because of this whole situation that all of us are in. My encounters with people need to be meaningful. And, if I'm doing my work or personally, and I want to be lifted by the people. I mean, even if I'm working with somebody and it's a struggle that we're trying to work through that they're having, I love doing that. It's a lift for me because it allows me to practice what is my life purpose, right? To be helpful to people, to take my training and my heart and my faith and, okay, let's take you from here to here, right? But when I meet with people who are just, they're going to be awful, that's it. You crossed over the line and that is it. I did some beautiful work for a group and they just, we got all kinds of things accomplished, and at the critical point there was just some behavior that was inappropriate. So I ended up communicating in writing saying, if these are the words that you've chosen and these are the words that you want to stand by, then you'll stand there and I'll stay here. And then the problem continues.
Right.
This was an intervention, and this is part of the learning. And, it's really, I'll tell you what, it is still difficult for me to do that because I want to stay and engage and work through things. But there comes a point in time when some people aren't willing to do it.
No, they're not. And we can't get hung up on trying to fix them, right?
Right.
We can't get hung up on that. So because at the end of the day, um, it's up to each individual to take responsibility for their life, their attitude, their actions. And I'm always amazed when I come into an organization and it's all positivity and how we can better get along and interact. And hey, here's scientific guidance to help you through your workplace relationships. And oh, by the way, these same principles apply at home too. And I can look across at people that bristle. You're bristling at treating other people well.
Yeah, right.
Like when they do that, I look at them and I know that their home life is not in a good space. Their friendships are not in a good space, and they're not in a good space, but they're so busy trying to fight against great information. It's just amazing to me. So let me get this straight, sir. So you're saying that kindness doesn't work at work? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And that, well, I just feel so. And my thing always is, it's a work environment, and I'm treating people kindly and with respect, care, appreciation, all the things that are so important. And they're still not willing to be a team player. Now they're self-selecting themselves off the team. And so I don't have a problem with separating people from the team that aren't a part of the team, that have decided that that's not the direction they want to go. Then what happens is when you get everyone rowing in the same direction, you get there faster and more efficiently. And it's less work for everyone because everybody's rowing in the same direction. So it's amazing. And that's the way to do it. And a lot of times businesses really try to work around people like that instead of dealing with people like that. And
Mm-hmm.
when you work around people like that, what happens is the problem spreads because they're impacting 3 or 4 or 10 people by their negativity. And you're causing obstacles for your people. They have to overcome that one rower that's out of sequence or rowing in the opposite direction or not working at all. They gotta make up for it. And so when leadership is strong enough to address those things, then by default, everything gets better every time.
Perfect
It's
analogy.
it's just a principle. And but again, it's an uncomfortable conversation to talk with someone about this. But to me, it's more uncomfortable to work around it. Like it's easy to sit down with someone and just spell it out, and then they get to decide. If they want to be on the team, here's what we need. If you don't want to be on the team, I understand. But you got to know that if this continues, you're not going to be on the team.
Yeah.
So, go home and think about it. Talk to your family. If you're married, hey, let your wife know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're a man, let your wife know. Hey, if I continue this behavior, they're going to send me home for good, and see what she has to say about it, and then let me know. You know what I'm saying? And let me know because this
That's
is what
powerful. That's really
because it's what's about to happen, and that's a very effective conversation. But sometimes they don't believe you. I don't believe you're not gonna. Okay, I've told you. Here it is in writing. So sorry, but this is the deal. So every once in a while, someone will call you on it, and you have to be true to your words.
Yes, you do. You really do have to be true to your words. I have found it easier and easier to be true to my words. I don't allow myself, course, I have to do a lot of talking with myself in order to make this true. I don't allow myself to let the discomfort uh, overtake my intuition and my better judgment. If it is wrong, if this conversation is wrong, then we're going to stop. I was on the phone with somebody the other day, and they were wanting to tussle with me, and it was, okay, so you called for my help, and so here's how this works, and here's what we can do. And then it was and I, by the way, in a like a discovery call, so to speak, I'm going to give it a certain amount of time, and I give people quite a bit of time. I mean, it's like a 30-minute call, but I can't go over that because then it just drags. Like, I'm not on the clock yet, we haven't made an agreement, this is discovery to see if we can do this. And this person was just so insistent, well, what about doing it this way? What about doing it this way? What about doing it this way? And I finally said, you know what? I got to tell you, I think that you've got all the answers for yourself, and you've really come to a great conclusion. And so really, I don't hear anything that I've said being of any contribution to you. So I think that the best advice that I could give you is for you to just counsel yourself and continue to walk through what your challenges are by yourself. What? But I need your help. Where? Because I didn't hear it. I shared with you what the formula is, and the formula is based on what I know from my training, my experience. I've only been at it for about 4 decades, so I understand your apprehension. But guess what? The deal closed. This is probably going to be one of my best clients. Hallelujah. But, I mean, really seriously, if you want, and it's in a Zoom call. So I'm looking at the person, I'm saying, really, it's okay. I mean, I think you've got the whole thing figured out. You've got all the answers. You keep telling me what they are. So have at it. What do you need me for?
Yeah, it's amazing when you stand your ground like that. And I've also found sometimes that with clients, prospective clients, they're going to challenge you in that way because they're really betting hard, or they're going to ask you 2 to 3 questions that they already know the answer to. They want to know if you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. And if you can, boom, boom, okay.
Right.
All right, let's have
And
fun.
I admire that. That's fine with
I
me.
do. It's smart. It's really
Yeah.
smart. And I love it because to me, when I love unscripted questions because it gives me an opportunity to demonstrate subject matter expertise.
Yes, absolutely. And
They
thinking in your
knew
feet, thinking in your feet.
right there, they knew you could not have been, you could not be prepared for prior,
Mm.
but your career has prepared you for it. Your life has prepared you to answer that question. You didn't know it was coming. And I love those curveballs. Or here's the other one. Hey, you and I are going to jump on this call and I'm going to have Judy. Then the call happens and there's 2 or 3 more, so all of a sudden there's a panel when you were expecting two. And so there's a power in being able to shift because you have to shift now because you thought it was going to be a conversation of 3 and now it's a conversation of 5. And
Right.
that dynamic is exponentially different than 3. So that you're speaking with. So, but I love it because again, you didn't know, and then and then you made it flow like, yeah, I knew about this,
Yeah.
last night.
Right, right,
So yeah, so it's fun. It's yeah, you just really have to be mindful and follow your training, follow your experience, follow what you know intuitively,
right.
right? Which seems to be intuitive, but there's something to all that. So there's a lot to it, actually.
So one of the things that I love about that is that there's um I appreciate being challenged, and I appreciate honing my skills. There have been times during this year of 2020, which has been so odd, when I have felt like, what what day is it? No, I've got this long list of things to do. I don't know where to start. And I have felt the stress of overwhelm. And so I pull my skills out of my repertoire, right? My basket of tools, and I start sifting through them thinking, what is it that I need to do right now? And this might sound ridiculous, but there are times when you should just lay down and go to sleep for an hour, because you need to clear your mind, you need to clear your energy. There's other times you should pray, other times you should go and exercise, other times when you realize you haven't had the amount of nourishment that you need, you haven't had your hydration, water, you know. People forget all the elements that contribute to our well-being. So, if I'm going to be functional, I need to really be engaging. Here's something funny. I miss one of my dearest, oldest friends. She passed away about, I don't know. I don't even want to count the years anymore, because the point is that she's gone from my life. This was a brilliant psychologist who was a good friend. She was my best friend for a long time. We'd go out to dinner, and there's a couple of restaurants where they have the paper, white paper as the tablecloth. Over the tablecloth, it's like, look, we got it nice in here, but we know that you're pigs, so we're putting a white piece of paper over the top of it, and it's the butcher's paper. It's like, wow, we're gonna get bloody here. This is, and we won't stain the paper, the cloth tablecloth underneath. Anyway, and they'd always have Crayolas or colored pencils on the table. Well, she and I were of like minds, and so we were never at a loss for discussion. However, this is really funny. As a release, we would do algebra or algebra trig or geometry problems on that paper. And we would just, I mean, it was very entertaining, but you know what? We got completely off the topic, and we got completely off of using one part of our brain, and we started using the other part of our brain. And those dinners, we got together every Friday night for dinner, and that just became part of a ritual that we engaged in. And you know what? I say that to people sometimes. They go, oh, that's so intimidating. How did you do that? Like, how could you possibly know how to do that? How did you know if you had the right answers? Well, we didn't always know, but that wasn't really the point. We did the exercise, and it fired neurons that sparked other neurons, and it was replenishing. So there are times here, Charlie, I don't have my full library with me where I'm at, but I will do the same thing here by myself and think, I remember certain formulas just from high school and college and graduate school and grade school. And so I'll just play around with numbers sometimes, and it's just an exercise. It's a different kind of an exercise, right? As opposed to, what do a lot of people do when they get stressed and they get overwhelmed? They go eat the junk in the kitchen that they said they were buying because kids might be coming over. If any kids are coming to my house, they're eating healthy. Because it can't go into my shopping cart, because I know it's going to end up in my mouth. If it can't end up in my mouth, it's not going in that cart. It's a killer. So when we get overwhelmed with things, it's like the panel. I mean, you could shrink back from that panel and say, "Whoa, I didn't know all you people are going to be here today. Oh, wait a second, this is a game changer." What, like, no, you got to float into it and have your confidence. And you and I talk about this. We love Fiji water. We like to drink water all day. We love to eat clean. We love to exercise, right? And get a good night of sleep.
Yeah, and I think the key word there and all of that is what you love to do, right?
Yes.
And so, I drink that water because that's the water I love. If you put another different brand here, say, I won't name any brands, but
Yeah, right. Don't name any brands.
there's some brands that I don't like.
Right.
If you set that same brand there, it's got an aftertaste. I'm not going to drink that stuff because I don't love it.
Right.
And so I think whether it comes to exercise, whether it comes to water, right, or rest, things that we love to do, we tend to stick to.
Yes.
So that's like a life hack. If I want to people say I have a hard time eating healthy. Well, just put foods around you, healthy foods around that you love. Find all the healthy foods that you love and stock that. Don't, I'm supposed to eat these Brussels sprouts, but I hate them. Well, then don't eat them. Find a replacement that has a similar nutritional value that you actually
Exactly.
like, and then put that in there. So
Right.
there's always, I won't eat like melons. Don't do anything for me, but then strawberries, grapes, bananas, peaches, cherries, blackberry. I mean, there's so many blueberries. There's so many fruits that I do
Absolutely.
eat, but for whatever reason, well, for me, the melons, no
I'll tell
melon.
you what, let's go to the store together because I will get all the melons. I mean, I could live on honeydew melon and cantaloupe and watermelon and cassava. I am wild about the melons. Isn't it funny?
It is. And so I remember going, my aunt and uncle took me and they went on a vacation to Lake of the Ozarks. And they took me and my cousin. And I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I never seen a cantaloupe, right? So there's my aunt cutting this thing up. And it looks so good. I mean, it's just the orange, and I was just, she
Yeah.
cut it up. And I was like, oh, I just couldn't wait to eat that, because I love fruit. And she put a piece on. I said, no, I want 2 pieces. And I took a bite of that, took another bite, then I got in trouble because I wasted it.
That
I
is
didn't,
hilarious.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And you know what? Let's use that as an analogy or a metaphor for what it is that we do when we're working with people, doing the things that we do with them. If they are just so repelled by it, just can't. Please don't make me bite into that thing. Please, let's not go that way. Okay, hey, if we can't go there, I don't want you to eat the melon if it's going to be so distasteful that it's going to turn you off so badly. But I need to figure out another way to get sweet nutrition into you. I'm going to have some berries over here that you didn't know about. I've got some. Do you like watermelon?
No melons.
No melons.
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So,
Can't do
all
it.
right. So, do you like squash?
So,
I wonder if it's things with seeds.
no, because I mean, I'm good with apples. I'm good with pears. I'm good even grapes that have seeds. I don't spit that. I just crunch them.
Yeah,
You know,
I do too.
I don't mind them. I'm like, that's good for me. So, but yeah, it's just something about the melon. I don't know. I don't like it. And yeah, I don't like it. But I can't think of another fruit. Those melons. I just don't like them. But
Well, so
pretty much,
when you know that about a person, whether it's a friend, it's a business associate, it's a client, it's a customer, then we do things to work around that, right?
right.
So that everybody still gets what it is that they need, and yet we find another way to provide it, right? Because there's always other foods, and food being the representation of nourishment. So the work that you and I do really is nourishing people, right? In customer service, in leadership. Isn't that the truth?
It is.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I like that. I think we might be onto something here. Hey, you want a dose of leadership? Do I have you down for one order or two? You want that well down or you want it rare?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cut into
Actually,
cubes?
actually, actually, great leadership is a little bit rare right now, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it is. It is. You know what, Charlie? One of the things that's really hurting my heart a lot in terms of everything that's going on with leadership. Oh, you're frozen. Wonder if you can hear me.
Right
This,
here.
yeah. So you froze for a second there. Did I freeze?
Yep.
Yeah, shoot. All right. So now that we're thawed out again, one of the things that hurts my heart about leadership is the way that people come together, not for goodness, but they come together to put their dukes up. That's not leadership.
Mm, no.
Because who wants to follow? One of the things I remember asking a client years ago is, what do you think the most important element of leadership is. And they gave me all these different things about, style and this theory and that theory. And I said, no, the one thing about leadership is, does anybody want to follow you? It's the only thing that matters. If you're the leader by assignment and nobody wants to follow you, then you're a leader in title, but you're not really a leader.
It's true.
People need to be invited in. They have to believe in you. They have to believe in what you're doing. They want to be aligned with you. They want to be like you. Right?
Mm.
Yeah, in some way. So our job when we're working with leadership is to get them beyond the melons and understand that there's more out there. Although you are surrounded by two melons. You got black melons on either side of your head there.
Yeah. No, I think those metal spheres.
I love those.
Yeah.
They're cool. They're shiny. They have no divots. They're perfect. They're smooth to the touch, but they're hard. And so you know that they're durable. And isn't that what we want for our life, both our work life and our what? Why do we call it work and then life? And why do we call it work-life balance?
Mhm.
Because there's life taking place in work and there's work taking place in our life, in our personal life. But everybody understands what you're talking about when you say work life.
True. It's true. So true.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. What kinds of things are you thinking about doing today that are your end of the week?
So usually on Fridays, I really like to try to get my work done in the morning. So I have my Friday afternoon to kind of, ease down into the weekend. But this Friday, I'm very busy. I've got
Yeah.
several things to do to set up the weekend, and I'll be busy this weekend as well with a few projects and things that I need to finish up. And so, but I love it, and so today I'm really grateful for my week. So thinking about things that went well during the week, and then also getting getting organized so I can be really efficient this weekend
Mm,
and get the things done I need to get done, but also to carve some time out to relax a little bit as well. That's important. So I just carve that out. My day is kind of on the weekends. I get up early and then go to bed late, but I have relaxation throughout the day, but work is also throughout the day. So I just go in between the two, and
yeah.
at the end of it, I've accomplished the things I need to do work wise, and I've accomplished things I need to do for myself as well. So
Guess what? Me too. And it is in a way it's kind of a push to make sure that you do that. Like I'll find out when I'm in the middle of my work, I'll think, you know what, I need to back away, I need to go for a walk. I'm kind of tired of sitting here, you know and I think I need to go out and breathe the fresh air and really take a good hike. Or I'm craving doing yoga. I really want to stretch. I want to throw my feet over my head and stretch out my back and my legs. Or I want to swim. Now it's getting too cold for me to swim outside. So, although I see maniacs out there in their wetsuits, and I'm thinking, okay, I've been one of those. But yeah, there's all kinds of things to do. I'll tell you one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to take a drive uh, in the rain at some point today and see how many leaves are still on the trees and get really good videography of what the trees are looking at right now, because it's such a beautiful transition time of year, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
gorgeous, gorgeous time.
yeah, it is a gorgeous time. Well, Charlie, we're down to the time of the show where it's time to say, see you later, alligator.
All right.
It was
Great.
another great episode.
Yeah, great to see you today, and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too, Charlie. All right. This is Freedom Fridays. We hope that we've released your mind into all the places that we took you today, and we'll see you again in a week. This is your host, Dr. Deb Carlin, and her good friend and wonderful guy, Dr. Charlie Cartwright, co-hosting here on Freedom Fridays on the K Factor, where K equals kindness. Just practice all those factors that lead to it, and you'll have a groovy time. Peace out, everybody. I'll talk to you later.
Bye bye.
Bye.